In this video, we're going to talk about setting up WooCommerce payments. So this is to set up payment methods for people that are using your store. So first things first, in order to get to the payment section, we're going to hover over WooCommerce and we're going to click on Settings. Then click on the Checkout tab. You're going to see that first we have some payment settings that we'll go through in a moment, and then down here we have the different available payment methods. So let's go through these settings really quickly. The first section is the coupon section. So if you're going to be using coupons in your site, you want to be able to generate promotions and coupons, then keep this enabled. If you are never going to be doing coupons, then just disable it. And then there's another option for whether or not discounts should be done sequentially. So you can decide that depending on your needs. For the checkout process, this first option is enable guest checkout. And what this means is, should users be able to check out on your website or pay on your website and complete an order without registering an account. And this is going to be kind of, dependent on each individual store owner on which one is better for your users. And I guess the main thing is, do you expect your users to be purchasing from you often? Or is your business one where you need to create a dialogue with your users, in which case you'll be contacting them later, whether with newsletters or special sales? Because if a user checks out without actually registering on your website, then you've kind of lost the ability to contact them, and from their side, they've lost the ability to, on your site, review their past orders and manage their information and stuff like that. So if your business is one where you expect them to buy from you once and you're probably not going to see them again, or there's no purpose for them to return, then guest checkout might be good for you. And the benefit to that is that there is a small group of the population that simply does not like to create accounts on every website that they buy from. So they prefer a checkout process where they don't create an account. This isn't as big as an issue as it used to be. I mean, people have kind of gotten used to registering during checkout or registering on a site they purchase from, because they want that information to be able to review it and stuff like that. So you're going to have to kind of make this decision on your own based on which is best for you and your customers. But I would, if you can get away with it, I would say disable guest checkout and force users to register an account, just because it's going to give you that ability to create a dialogue with them, get their email addresses and contact information, and also offer them the service of having their information and their orders on their My Account page and other things. So whether or not you want that is going to be up to you. So that's where you'd select the option to decide that. For the force secure checkout, this is something you're going to have enabled, but we're not going to do it yet, because this is something we're going to do after your site goes live, because this forces users to check out with the HTTPS or the SSL certificate, which is a security certificate that we're going to add to your site after, during the launch process. So you are going to use this option. We'll come back and check this later after we've gone live. But that's what that is. It's basically force all of the data transferred between me or my website and the user to go through this secure process. The checkout pages, this is similar to other WooCommerce pages. If you did need to change the default location or name of the cart or checkout page, this is where you do it, but we don't recommend that you're doing that unless there's a real specific purpose. But you can create a page and then select it here if you need that page to be different than the default. This is one that you actually can change, though, or are encouraged to do, which is the terms and conditions. So if you have a terms and conditions page, or you're going to create one, and you probably should, you go to pages, you click add new, you create a page just like any other one and drop your content in there. And then once that's published, you come back here and select it from this drop down list. The checkout endpoints control the slugs, or the base parts of the URL that we've talked about before. You can change these here, but again, let's probably not do that unless there's a specific reason, or you're told by a support person to change this for some reason. And the last part is the most important part, which is the payment gateways. This lists all of the gateways that are currently installed or set up on your site. Whether or not they are active, you'll see this check mark here on the right hand side. And it's important to note that these, you can drag and drop the order of these, and this is also the order in which they'll show up on the front end of the website. So if you have a preferred payment method, even though you have a few of them, if there's one you prefer, move that one to the top and then move the alternative options, down a little bit, just so you can kind of encourage people to use those. For each payment gateway that's installed, you can either, you can click on it here to edit it, or you'll also see at the top there's menu items for each payment gateway. So we'll go through all the default ones now and tell you a little bit about them and how to set them up. The first one, BACS, this is for bank transfers, not very popular in the US, but they are quite popular in other places. You enable and disable a payment gateway. All of these will have this first checkbox, which is just to whether or not it should be allowed to be used as a payment method. You enter in the title, which is what they're going to see when they're choosing this option, and the description. You put in instructions, any special instructions, and you put in your bank info. And that's basically it for bank transfers. It's quite straightforward. Now we'll go to check payments. And check payments are similar to bank transfer, in which they're an offline payment option. You'll enable it here, title and description for the front end, and any special instructions, address and things like that can go in the description or in the special instructions. The things to note when we're talking about check payments or bank transfer or cash on delivery, any order that is going to be done offline, try to keep in mind that this is going to take, it's going to be an extra step for you, because if they choose one of these payment options, after they've completed their order, the status on the order. So orders in WooCommerce have statuses just like a page, right? So draft, preview, or sorry, draft, published, pending, these kind of orders, the statuses. And orders have those too. And the status after they've completed their order is processing. And processing is while it's waiting for a payment to be completed. So with your online payment methods like PayPal and Stripe, it's going to go from processing to completed fairly quickly as soon as the payment processor authorizes the payment or sends information back to the site that order was successful. When you're talking about bank transfers or check payments or cash on delivery, the order is going to remain in processing until you manually go into that order and change it to completed. So the order is going to stay in processing until you've received that bank transfer or that check and you manually go into the system and change it to completed. So just keep in mind that if you are going to offer those options, and for some it makes sense. So if you're creating a website for food delivery, and your delivery guy is going to go out there and deliver the food and grab the money, and he's going to come back, then that kind of makes sense, the cash on delivery, because you're just going to assume all orders and they're being sent out immediately and that cash is being grabbed. So that kind of makes sense. But otherwise, if you're shipping products or something like that out and you're waiting for bank transfers and checks, just remember there's going to be some additional administrative work. So online kind of processing of payments is preferable just from an administrative point of view. So now we'll go into our online payment systems. We're going to cover PayPal and Stripe, since these are primarily the most popular payment processors. If you need to work with a third-party payment processor, so if you're in Europe, something like Global Web Pay, or if you have a deal with your bank's online payment processor, then you're either going to look through the WooCommerce extension store to see if they already have a plugin for that payment processor, or contact them directly, because I've seen it a few times where they'll have a WordPress plugin or a WooCommerce plugin available, but it's from their member site or within their system that you have to log in and check it out. So contact them and look through the WooCommerce extensions to see if that's available. But the setup will generally be the same. You'll have to put in some login information, some other information that they'll give you, and they'll have documentation available. If you have trouble with any specific payment processor, then post in the forums and we'll try to help you, and we'll throw up a guide for the other people that run into that problem. Unfortunately, there's so many of them in so many different countries that work very differently. We won't be able to publish a guide for each one, obviously. So let's go over PayPal and Stripe. There's two options that come with WooCommerce. One is PayPal Standard, which is just the PayPal option, and then there's PayPal Express Checkout. And these both are generally available in the same countries. They have the same transaction fees, and they work. They're both processed through PayPal. So what's the difference? The difference is that with PayPal Standard, how the checkout process works is they'll go through your entire checkout process, and once they're ready to pay, they'll click on a button. They're redirected to PayPal, and then PayPal, after the order is processed through a system called IPN, they'll send a signal back to your website that the payment has been approved, and then that order is then completed. But all the information from the user, their shipping and billing and payment information, all that stuff is entered in on your site, and then they're transferred to PayPal to actually pay via PayPal. And they don't need a PayPal account. They can use a credit card, but they pay on PayPal's website at the end. With PayPal Express Checkout, the whole checkout process is done through PayPal. So when they get to the checkout or the cart area, instead of entering in that information, they're just going to click on a button that says checkout with PayPal. They're brought to PayPal's site, they make the payment there, and then they're sent back to your website with any shipping information or billing information that's needed, and that order is processed right away because it's done through technology, like a technology called a token. So it sends that information directly back, and the order is processed right away. I would recommend, unless there's a specific reason to use Standard, that you go with PayPal Express Checkout. And the reason is there can be communication issues with that IPN system with PayPal Standard, where sometimes your website doesn't get the notification, and the problem could be on your side, it could be on PayPal's side, but there have been several cases where orders are lost. Also, the nice thing about PayPal Express Checkout is that because they don't have, if they have their shipping and billing information already in PayPal, they're not going to have to re-enter that again on your site. PayPal is going to send you that information back after the order is processed, which can, improve or decrease the amount of abandoned carts or abandoned checkouts, because that's, the majority of people, for whatever reason, get to that checkout point during an order and then for whatever reason stop. And this can reduce that a little bit. So PayPal Standard, it does have some benefits. If you put some API information in there, you can do refunds through your website and stuff like that. But in general, I would probably recommend for most people that PayPal Express Checkout will be the best. And they also have an option where they don't actually have to leave your site, but they get kind of an overlay. And this is similar to Stripe. They'll get on your website, they'll get an overlay which shows the information they put into PayPal, so they don't actually redirect away from your site, but they just get a PayPal from pop-up from PayPal. In both of these cases, though, PayPal handles all of the security and protecting the data, and even though our site's going to be secure with an SSL certificate, it just removes a little bit of that responsibility from our end, in the sense that they're handling all the payments and the checkouts and everything, so we don't have to worry about keeping users' credit card information and things like that secure, because that credit card information or that PayPal information, that email, their private financial information will never actually be stored anywhere on our website, so we don't have to worry about that data ever being available if our site did come under fire. So those are the two PayPal options. I will put additional information to the WooCommerce documentation, as well as a couple videos from WooCommerce to go over the different options, so you can kind of see which one is right for you. But generally, PayPal Express Checkout is probably going to be better. It's also a lot easier to set up. As you can see, we just click a button and that connects to our PayPal account. So for PayPal Standard, this is just the link that says PayPal. You'll put in the PayPal option, or pay with PayPal. And again, they don't need a PayPal account. They can pay with a PayPal account, email, or a credit card. You put in your PayPal email address. This PayPal sandbox is whether or not you're doing test transactions or real transactions. You can enable debug logging. And then they have some advanced options which you can read through, as far as like the receiver email and the identity token, which helps with that IPN thing. And just some other information. You can read through this. It's pretty straightforward, except for this payment action, capture versus authorize. If you, for whatever reason, you're not intending on billing them right away, but you want to authorize the payment, that option is here. That's only going to be for special cases, but generally we'll keep it capture, which means actually take the money from the account. And then we have some page styles and image styles to customize the look of the PayPal page. And this is where you'd put in your API credentials. You can learn how to get that API information from your account by clicking on this link, and this allows you to process refunds via PayPal, etc. For the PayPal Express checkout, it's quite easier. This is choosing between live and the staging or test. When you want to test transactions, you can click here to create the connection between you and your PayPal account. And then there's a lot of options here to customize how that PayPal page looks when they're temporarily redirected to PayPal, or that pop-up. You can kind of change how that looks. And then there's some things about the customer's user information and things like that. So check out those. There's little question marks here you can hover over to see exactly what each option means. But again, it all is pretty straightforward, and I will link to step-by-step guides from WooCommerce talking about exactly how to configure this for your needs. So there's no reason for us to go over it each detail in this video. So those are your two options for PayPal, and then we have a Stripe option. We can enable it or disable it. We can do credit card through Stripe or just credit card. You can do enable test mode. Now the Stripe requires you to have a Stripe account. So this is a whole separate payment processing system. And when you create an account, they will give you test keys and live keys. And this is where you'd put in those test keys. And then if you uncheck enable test mode, you'll see these both switch to live, and you'll put in those live keys. The statement descriptor is what's going to show up on their credit card statement after they purchased. This is the same kind of thing with capture versus authorize. Stripe checkout is the overlay. So if you would prefer to have that kind of overlay pop up, this is the way to do it. This pops up that little, you might have seen it some places if you've been shopping online recently. It pops up the little Stripe overlay. They put in their credit card information there, so that way they never leave your site. Everything is kind of right there, and it pops up the overlay. And then there's some stuff about Apple Pay and saved cards and stuff like that. But again, same thing with other places. This they're not going to save the actual user's payment information on your site, so we don't have to worry about securing that data. With all three of these, though, we are going to use an SSL certificate, just because we want to make sure our transactions and our websites and our user data that we are saving is as secure as possible. So this is how we handle which payment methods are available on our website. Each extension is going to have its own kind of description and fields. Read through those, and we'll put documentation below. But it is fairly straightforward. It's nothing to be intimidated about. A lot of people think it's more complicated than it is. Just go for the payment option that you're looking for, that works with your payment processor. Put in the information. Make sure to read through these help fields to understand exactly what you're putting through. And then once they're enabled and they are configured, when a user gets to that checkout part, they will see the options that are available to them. So for most people, it's probably going to be PayPal Express checkout, or for those that prefer Stripe, they can go with Stripe.